Welcome back. So we continue with our focus on U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, who has threatened to impose 100% tariffs on BRIC countries if they create a rival currency to the U.S. dollar. Presidency spokesperson Vincent Magwenya joins us now for a response. Mr. Magwenya, a good evening to you. It was hard to ignore what was happening on the X threads this weekend with that X from President-elect Donald Trump. I'm just trying to be a fly on the wall here. What's the conversation with the president when you discuss that X?
Well, good evening and good evening to your viewers, Naledi. Naledi, I think first of all, our initial position and that of the president is that he doesn't conduct diplomacy via the megaphone. Issues of bilateral trade, issues of multilateral trade, as well as financial transactions, are issues that are best discussed in person around the table, where all issues of concerns are tabled and they are addressed in a systematic fashion. So you will not hear President Ramaphosa directly responding to President-elect Trump or any of his counterparts via X or any other social media platform. Instead, he will use the available diplomatic channels to engage over those issues. So that's the first point. The second point, unfortunately, there's been a lot of misreporting on this issue. BRICS countries have never sought to initiate or establish a rival currency to the dollar. The discussion has always focused around trading amongst each other using their national currencies. That's what the discussion has always focused on. It is also for this reason that President Ramaphosa, along many other world leaders, particularly BRICS members and leaders from the global south, have consistently made the call for the reform of international financial institutions so that you are able to develop the necessary enablements and infrastructure that will allow for countries to trade using their national currencies. So that's been the focus of the discussion. There is no evidence that points to such a development. If it were to happen, it will undermine any one particular economy, let alone the economy of the United States in this regard. This is so important for the countries within the BRICS grouping of countries and other countries for that matter, so that they can protect themselves from foreign exchange fluctuations that often impact them, especially those countries with weaker currencies where they're not able to trade effectively or access financial instruments in a cost-effective manner because of these fluctuations. So the discussion has always been focused on how do we trade amongst each other using our own national currencies.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about here, right? Because we've just been speaking to an independent analyst who tried to give us some education as to really what BRICS has been working on. And so as you described that this was talks between and amongst the BRICS bloc to strengthen trade amongst each other with your own currency. So this message by the president-elect of the U.S. not going to slow that effort down.
No, I think what is more important that President Ramaphosa is looking forward to is a series of engagements with President Trump. As you know, we will be working very closely with the United States in the course of our G20 presidency, which the president will launch tomorrow. After South Africa's presidency of the G20, we will then hand over to the United States. Already South Africa, together with the United States and Brazil, form what we call the G20 Troika to ensure that there is a seamless transition from one country that is leading the group to the next country. And so we're going to have multiple channels of engagement at different levels, where if there are issues concerning trade, as well as many other issues from both a bilateral perspective as well as a multilateral perspective, those issues can be discussed candidly. And where there are misunderstandings, those matters can then be appropriately clarified. And so what that's the opportunity we're looking forward to. With respect to the process that BRICS countries are seeking to initiate, as I said, there is no evidence that points to that process in any shape or form threatening or undermining the stability of the United States economy. This is essentially a group of countries looking at best and efficient ways and cost-effective ways of trading amongst each other. It's also a way of accessing international financial instruments in a manner that will aid the development of these countries, South Africa included.
You know, it's interesting because you talk about how there simply is no evidence that this is the move that BRICS nations were looking to make. And I think that it certainly is one thing to say, well, this is the perspective we see it from, and perhaps even the perspective of other nations in the bloc. But the president-elect seeming to really, truly believe that there is in the works here a creation of a BRICS currency. And so let's assume here that the president-elect of the U.S. holds on to that belief. Have we as South Africa considered what that 100% tariffs would mean for us? I mean, have you thought about, and do you believe that it's likely that that could actually be something that we see?
No, we will not work off that assumption because President-elect Trump has not had the opportunity to interact with leaders of BRICS countries. And so whilst President-elect Trump may have interacted with some of the leaders during his first stint in government and in leading the U.S. administration, we believe that it will be important that he gets the opportunity to once again interact with not only us as South Africa, but also with a number of leaders within the BRICS family of countries. And we believe once those interactions take place, there will be a better appreciation and a better understanding of what the BRICS countries are seeking to do. So we will not work on a negative assumption that says he will hold on to the belief that is currently in display. We will rather say once there's been engagement between teams, for example, and between the heads of states from BRICS countries, there will be an appreciation of what the opportunity is for BRICS countries to be able to trade in their various local currency is and what it could mean for the development of those economies, including our own economy. And so we will rather operate on an assumption that President-elect Trump will get into office, and once he's in office, there will be opportunities for him to engage with the various leaders from BRICS countries where these issues will be better clarified and they will be better understood.
Yeah, but what do you make of this tone, Mr. Magwenya? I mean, the tone is something certainly that, you know, stands out for you. He says they can go and find another sucker with an exclamation mark and you know, real big emphasis on that word, right? That you can say goodbye to selling to the wonderful U.S. economy. Any country that tries should wave goodbye to America. It's a strong tone.
You know, Naledi, trade is a two-way relationship. Trade carries benefits for all parties that are involved. It's never a one-way sort of traffic, and that's something that's has always been the case in terms of how nations trade. It's not an exercise that benefits one party. It's an exercise that benefits all parties that are involved. We have goods that we sell to the United States, and they have commodities that they want and that they import, or rather that we export to them. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship, and it will always be like that. And so we're not going to read much around that tone on X. And even if we were to, we will be circumspect with respect to how publicly we deal with these issues. As I said, the president's preference is to have direct face-to-face discussions on these issues and not engage on what we call megaphone diplomacy. But our sense is that, once the facts are on the table, and there's a realization of, the importance of the various trade relationships that the United States has with BRICS countries and other parts of the world. These issues will be better understood and they'll be better articulated. So we don't read much into that because we understand how trade works, and we understand how these relationships are managed and they are maintained over a period of time. And so we're not going to be overly concerned by one post on X, but we'll rather focus on what comes out when we have the opportunity to then engage with the upcoming Trump administration.
All right, Mr. Magwenya, as we wrap up, I think if you'll allow us just to look internally now at some of the events taking place here at home. Today, we're reporting that yet another child has died as a result of what is suspected to be food poisoning, this time in River Lee, a grade 4 pupil having fallen ill. This is after eating biscuits. And of course, and you can tell me where we are in the timeline, because I think there's still some confusion as to when the deadline is for this 21 days for spaza shops to register, so that clarity would be important. But, I mean, your response to this, are we moving fast enough? Is even the registering of shops going to be dealing with the issue at hand as yet another family reels?
Well, first of all, one will want to pass our condolences to the family and loved ones of the child that has tragically and unfortunately passed away. We are saddened by this ongoing challenge that we're facing, or crisis rather, of children that are dying from foodborne illnesses resulting from a number of reasons that have been identified. Now, lady, you will know that there are multiple processes that are currently underway that are aimed at curbing further deaths, even illnesses. There are various initiatives that are underway that are aimed at ensuring that we have strict adherence to all protocols around food, health, and safety at different levels of food handling, as well as distribution and ultimately sales to customers. Yes, indeed, we would love to have this process moving a lot faster. The registration of spaza shops and other small businesses that handle and sell food is not the only solution that government is looking at. Just today, for example, the commissioner of the Border Management Agency announced instructions that have been given to all border posts to look out and ensure that all those banned pesticides like Aldicap and others that are not meant for consumer usage are not allowed into the country. And those that are allowed into the country are properly licensed, and they're being imported by parties that are properly licensed to handle them. So that's one initiative. The initiative around strengthening our capacity, particularly at a local government, with respect to ensuring that we have inspectors that visit these shops that sell food and handle food. That initiative is also underway. So there are a number of initiatives, but I think what is important is to also make a call to parents and to communities that they do their best to ensure that children buy food from places that are registered, from places that demonstrate that their handling of food items is in accordance with the established protocols and regulations in this regard. and that we continuously remain vigilant when we buy food items from the various spaza shops. But indeed, one will want these processes to be accelerated and to reach a stage where we cannot have any child falling ill or losing a life as a result of food that has been purchased anywhere, for that matter, in the country.
Yeah, and unfortunately, though, for the for this family in River Lee, it's too late. But thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. Vincent Magwenya, the spokesperson to the President, speaking to us this evening. And as you heard Mr. Magwenya saying there as well, that some of the efforts that are in place to deal with this issue and the crisis that we're seeing around food poisoning is work being done by the Border Management Authority to keep a close eye on our ports of entry. In fact, in just a few moments, we'll be in conversation with the BMA Commissioner, Mr. Michael Masiapato, on the other side of this short break.